it was a normal day, and then I felt like doing a lot of PLA hunting. This wasn't normal, but I hunted for a while, perfected a few dex entries, caught some shinies until I had the idea for this video. Now the rules for this challenge are to catch shiny Pokemon in Pokemon Legends Arceus until you have about 6 Pokemon that are transferable to SV. Evolve any Pokemon and do any amount of prep or stat changes that you want. And then level up your Pokemon, the max is level 80, and then just enter the post-DLC version of the Academy Ace tournament. And if any of you other trainers want to do this challenge, or even upload your own video doing this challenge, go ahead. Those are the basic rules, and you can go overkill on prep to make it super easy. I only used a few TMs, grinded to effort values, gave them all different held items, and banned using items in battle, and also enforced set mode. That's a word. But you can even go as far as to changing natures with mints or give them just the most competitively viable moveset. If you want to make this way harder, you can, but I like the shiny hunting side of Pokemon more than battling and the competitive side. So even if this Pokemon is way more battling than shiny hunting, I am still a shiny hunting YouTuber. So that ain't changing. That is not changing. So last thing, if you do want to make a video of this and upload it, just say that I did it first, and then this is where you got the idea from, and whatever. But yeah, now we can actually start. So anyways, so I began hunting, but there was a glaring problem. I kinda had already caught a bunch and put them in a separate box. So I had Pokemon, but not reactions to finding them. I did manage to record myself finding 2 non-transferable shinies and my final member, though. The box did look like this, with the party in the top and the non-transferable Pokemon being on the bottom. We had a pretty stacked team other than one significant L. That L, of course, standing for Lumineon. This thing has horrible stats that are from 69 to 86 in all stats, except for an okay 91 speed. I immediately knew that this thing would be a struggle to use, and that it would be lucky if it contributed at all. So then, I forgot to record evolving Ghastly and Gengar and transferred everything to Violet. Now, cue training montage. I tried to gear each Pokemon to have a specific use, so I'm going to explain them one by one very fast. 1. Drifloon. I sort of just had this as the front of the party when, like, training, and kind of just forgot to swap it, so it was always the lead, and it was an okay lead, but, like, when I just started it, it was the front of my party for every battle. I did gear it towards HP and special attacks so it could live for a while and do a lot of damage. It did have Stab, Air Slash for the flinch chance and Hex, as well as Will-O-Wisp and Tailwind for some status and speed control. I took advantage of its bulk by giving it Rocky Helmet. 2. Staraptor. This one was just supposed to go fast and kill things. I ran out of items, so it just got Sharp Beak. I gave it Brave Bird. I gave it Brave Bird and Close Combat for stab and coverage, and then U-turn for some maneuvering and Tailwind. 3. Gengar. I also just trained this one to go fast and kill things, but I gave it Dazzling Gleam for scary dragon types, as well as Hex, Hypnosis, and Dream Eater. I also ran out of ideas for items, so it just got Spell Tag. Looking back though, I definitely should have given it Life Orb. 4. Lucario. I trained it to be physically defensive and kill things with Close Combat, Drain Punch, Meteor Mash, and Ice Punch for more Dragon-type coverage with Assault Vest. Hisui and Arcanine. I was super excited to use Hisui and Arcanine, but unfortunately it has 2 4x weaknesses to Ground and Water. I gave it Weakness Policy to take advantage of its many weaknesses, and Rock Slide, Flare Blitz, Temper Flare, and Will-O-Wisp. It is the 3rd member to go fast and kill things. 6. Finally, what you were waiting for, Lumineon. Nope, I did not forget about Lumineon. Looking at its stats, I decided to give it a supporting role with leftovers and traded it in special attack and speed. This was a really bad idea though. As soon as I entered the tournament, I knew I should have invested in its defenses instead, because I gave it the moveset of Chilling Water for a bit of damage, but mostly for its attack drops, U-turn for maneuvering, Tailwind for more speed control, and Whirlpool for some reason. Just like Chip, I guess, but Chilling. I don't know why it was there. It did do a thing later. Anyway, let's get right into it. The first opponent was Miriam, who led off with a Hypno that tried to set up Reflect against my special attacker, so Drifblim set up a Tailwind followed by a Will-O-Wisp to burn it as it attempted a Hypnosis and missed, and it was KO'd by Hex the next turn. The next Pokemon was Electros, and it set up as Drifblim burned it. Then on the next turn, Drifblim lived on red health from a super effective Supercell Slam as I reset up Tailwind. Hex left Electros on red health, so I was able to counterattack with Liquidation. But Drifblim had Aftermath, so they just both went down that turn. But since Drifblim fainted before Electros, I had to blindly send out my next Pokemon, so I just sent out Staraptor and hoped whatever came out next would be doing only neutral damage. Unfortunately, the next was Pincurchin, a pure electric type. So Staraptor U-turned out into Arcanine. The Zing-Zap that it fired was neutral to Arcanine, only chipping its health. Arcanine attempted a Rock Slide, but missed on the very first attempt. The Pincurchin fired off another Zing-Zap that still only did some chip damage. I saw that Rain had then occurred naturally as I went for a Raging Fury, but it still KO'd the Pincurchin. And sadly for Glalie, the next Pokemon, Arcanine was locked into Raging Fury, and it went down on one hit, even in the rain. The Meganium that was sent out next had a very similar fate, despite having fairly good defenses in the rain. After Meganium, Arcanine got confused from Raging Fury, but I wasn't locked into it anymore, so I went for a Will-O-Wisp on the now Terra Poison Toxapex, and even with it using a quad-effective Liquidation, Arcanine lived on red because of the burn. Weakness Policy even activated, and because the Toxapex Terra'd, it didn't resist Arcanine's fire moves, and it was able to fire off a Flare Blitz that barely didn't kill because of Toxapex's huge 153 base defense stat, and Arcanine fainted from recoil damage. Then I sent out Staraptor in Close Combat at the Toxapex, and unsurprisingly it fainted. I was feeling pretty good after that first battle. After all, I only had to use 3 Pokemon. The next opponent was Rhyhorn, who led with Gengar, which wasn't great for my Drifblim. So since I was anticipating a Ghost-type move, I swapped in my Staraptor, because when a Ghost-type move hits a Normal-type Pokemon, it does nothing. The Gengar then fired off a Night Daze, which was actually Dark-type, so Staraptor did take about half health from that. I then decided to just set up Tailwind so that I could ensure that whichever my team came out next, that they would outspeed, and Gengar fired off another Night Daze, which KO'd Staraptor. I then sent out Arcanine, hoping for a flinch from Rock Slide, which I did get after discovering that Gengar was actually a Zoroark in disguise. Then Arcanine fired off another Rock Slide, which hit and KO'd Zoroark. I then swapped Drifblim in front of Grumpig, which missed and gave me a free switch in. Drifblim missed Will-O-Wisp on it, giving it a free Power Gem then. So it's kind of 2 for 2, or 1 for 1, or whatever. Then I lost Tailwind, and Grumpig got faster because I lost Tailwind and hit Drifblim with another Power Gem as Drifblim hit the Will-O-Wisp. Grumpig did KO Drifblim with Power Gem on the next turn. And so I sent out Gengar on the next turn and hexed the Grumpig, and with the burn on Grumpig, it did take the KO. The next was Seviper, which Gengar instantly landed a Hypnosis on, because of its Shed Skin ability, it was able to instantly wake up. Gengar went for a Hex while Seviper went for Glare, paralyzing Gengar. But despite the paralysis, I do despise paralysis, but despite it, Gengar still outsped Seviper and got the KO with Hex. The next Pokemon, Malamar, outsped Gengar because of the paralysis, and OHKO'd it with Psycho Cut. So I sent out Lucario, and my brain just didn't register that it was Contrary Malamar, because it used Superpower and gained stat buffs from it instead of lowering, which is what Contrary does. So I was a little surprised when Lucario was KO'd, but realized right afterward. The support Lumineon actually took the Malamar KO because it was super low. The next Pokemon was Scizor, and I decided to keep the support Lumineon out just to get a lot of chip damage. It did go down though, and I Terra-Fired my Arcanine and started the Raging Fury, knowing that Gengar would be next because of the Zoroark at the very beginning, and not seeing it earlier, the Gengar. The Gengar Terra'd Ghost, but Arcanine was faster, and with the Terra-Fire boost, was able to OHKO the Gengar. That was the end of the second battle, and I was feeling a little more nervous after it. The next battle was against Time, which I actually wasn't scared of at all because a lot of the Pokemon I have can do really well against rock types. The first Pokemon out was Cleaver, and it fired off a Stone Axe, which would have OHKO'd Drifloon, but it lived with the power of friendship and still missed the Will-O-Wisp. I decided to just let Drifloon go and click Tailwind, but even after taking another Stone Axe, it was saved by the power of friendship, and actually got off the Tailwind. Drifloon was then faster than Cleaver, but still missed the Will-O-Wisp and fainted. I sent out Lucario next to finish off Cleaver with the Drain Punch, and the next was actually a Dusk form Lycanroc, which was cool, but got OHKO'd by Drain Punch. After that, Stunjourner was out and lived to Lucario's Meteor Mash, and got to fire off an Earthquake. But Lucario lived because I had maxed out its physical defense and given it the Assault Vest item, which increases both its defenses by 50%. And Stunjourner fainted on the next turn because that's how types work. Next was Colossal, which lived Lucario's attack and got the Revenge KO. So then I sent out Lumineon and hit it with a quad-effective Chilling Water to get the KO. Then I had a chip damage battle with the Dreadnought, which Lumineon actually won. Almost like all the special attack investment was worth it. The next was the ace, Garganacl. Lumineon got some chip damage by hitting it with Whirlpool, but it hit Lumineon with a super effective Thunder Punch, which it actually barely lived and was able to chip at the Garganacl a little more because of it. And I was expecting a KO, but for some reason it went for Fire Punch, which Lumineon still somehow managed to survive and was able to KO with Chilling Water. The Garganacl ace was defeated by my support, Lumineon. Needless to say, my spirits were up after that battle, and the last trainer was the champion, Nemona. Lycanroc Midday form was sent out first, and I immediately swapped to Lucario. It actually took advantage of this and set up Stealth Rock. Lucario took a quad-effective Drill Run because of the heavy investment into defense that I talked about earlier. I anticipated another Drill Run and sent out Staraptor for free. I actually did get the read this time, though, and avoided it, and went for a super effective close combat. Lycanroc was KO'd by it, but not before it chipped down some of Staraptor's health with Accelerock and Stealth Rocks. The next was Pawmot, and this thing was an actual beast. It used a priority move to go first and get the KO on Staraptor. Then it proceeded to destroy Arcanine with some help from Stealth Rocks, got a double shock off on Drifloon to KO it, and after half my team was destroyed by Pawmot, Gengar got the KO on it. The Komodo that I was worried about was next, but Gengar OHKO'd it. The next Pokemon was Ribombee, which would have been easily dealt with by Arcanine, but it Psychic to Gengar and got the OHKO. Lucario took a lot of damage from it, but got the OHKO on the Ribombee. Decidueye was thrown out next and KO'd Lucario, and then KO'd Lumineon right after, unsurprisingly. I was considering giving up because I did just totally throw against the Pawmot, and that was my entire downfall. But why would I make this video if I didn't try again? You know that we need a happy ending. Alright, and we're back. We know what shows up first. I know this thing's going for Stealth Rock, so I swap immediately to Lucario and take an Accelerock incredibly easily, despite not foreseeing it. But Lucario was KO'd by Drill Run because I swapped around the Assault Vest to Arcanine and the Weakness Policy to Lucario, as well as slightly changing their movesets to work with the items. I sent out Staraptor again and close combated it, but it didn't go for Accelerock and Staraptor got off unscathed. Next was the Palma itself, the one that I consider to have ended the last run. Knowing what it was capable of, I immediately had Staraptor U-turn into the Lumineon, which wasn't my brightest moment because I already knew from last time that Gengar could OHKO it. But I guess my excuse is that I wanted to free switch him, so I decided to have it KO Lumineon, and Gengar barely fell short of getting the OHKO. It did survive, and was able to fire back. I had half my team now, and this was looking to be a clean sweep from here, as long as I could deal with Decidueye and whatever came after it. I did just Dazzling Gleam to OHKO the Komodo again, and Ribombee was next. Gengar actually hit the Hypnosis and was able to take the KO on the next turn. Decidueye was next, and Gengar somehow managed to hit another Hypnosis. Decidueye fell the same way that Ribombee did, and the last Pokemon was next. I decided to gamble for the Hypnosis again, even though it was improbable to hit. And Gengar missed and fell to Aqua Step. I still had half my team, and all I had to do was survive a Quaquaval that was constantly going faster and faster. Rifflin managed to hit a burn and got some aftermath damage, but I only had Staraptor and Quad Weak Arcanine left. I Terra'd Staraptor to make sure I got the KO, and Staraptor lived the Aqua Step, which meant that that was it. I had completed the challenge with one final Brave Bird. So then it was done. If you have any ideas for challenges, please drop them in the comments. And I'm not going to say that more uploads are happening, because I really can't guarantee anything, but it is the summer and I have way more time. Also, please consider subscribing. I have a really tall goal of 1,000 subscribers before September, or the end of the summer technically. So if you want to support the small channel, please like the video, and if you want to see more like this, consider subscribing.